Welcome to The Good Word. My name is Vincent Goodwill, senior NBA reporter, Yahoo Sports. We are part of the Ball Don't Lie podcast. Get us wherever you get your podcast. We are joined today by Isis, Ice Young. That would be the last time I call her Isis because she don't rock like that. We just gonna call her Ice. If y'all remember, we had her on this podcast after Game 3 of the NBA Finals between Dallas and Boston, which seems like such a long time ago. But Ice, of course, played at Syracuse, played internationally, and Ice is going to be joining us a lot more frequently on this here podcast. Ice, I mean, you've had a hell of a morning that we cannot actually discuss, but how are you doing today?
I'm fantastic, besides the hell of a morning that we can't discuss. I'm doing great. How are you?
Yeah, we can't talk about that. We'll talk about that off wax. Now, Ice, I do have this question because it's clearly going to be a topic of said conversation.
Okay.
Did you ever have skill on the basketball court, or was that, or were you the only person out there with skill when you were playing?
I had some skill. I'm only 5'7", so I don't have the size. Some had skill, maybe. Depends on the level. I don't know.
I'm sure you did. Like, at this point, everybody has heard of Anthony Edwards' comments on the Wall Street Journal, probably a very relaxed conversation, and of course, basking in the glow of pretty much his glow up this year. This is the year where pretty much he took Ja Morant's place as like America's next hero for USA basketball, pretty much. And you saw how he played in the Olympics. He played behind Devin Booker, but he had some great moments out there. Him and Kevin Durant were like their own reality show. And he talked about NBA of a previous era. He started off by saying, Isis, I didn't watch it back in the day, so I can't speak on it. That's where he should have stopped. But he continues. They say it was tougher back then than it is now, but I don't think anybody had skill back then. Michael Jordan was the only one who really had skill, you know what I mean? So that's why when they saw Kobe, they were like, oh my God, but now everybody has skill, unquote. Before we go to Magic Johnson's very pointed reaction, Ice, you tell me what you think, because I got thoughts.
If you don't know and you haven't watched it, how do you speak on it? Like, he was so correct in that statement. I was so proud of him for the first sentence. That was very mature. And then he showed his age. And he's young, right? He's young. But I feel like we have this conversation in the WNBA all the time about people honoring the legends that came before them and like what paved the way. And I feel like you can't be a player in the NBA and only say that Michael Jordan was the only skillful person at the time. Like, we are talking about those who literally paved the way in the NBA. You're overlooking Isaiah Thomas, a John Stockton, a Bill Walton. I mean, there are so many names that we can go through of players where it's like, no, not just their size and their ability. I feel like the game of basketball at the highest level, the great players always have a high level of skill. And so I just thought it was just, to be quite honest, a dumb statement to make. Like, there's no way that you were talking about the game of basketball and talking about those who've come before us and some of the best top 50 players that have ever played in this league, and you say that only one had some skill before Kobe? Like, come on. I love Ant-Man, and I can't help him here.
Yeah. I think it's far more nuanced of a conversation. For one, I think Ant was being hyperbolic, as a 22, 23-year-old is prone to do. Like there would be some grace given there. Part of it is there in the NBA, Ice, it just seems like in this sport more than any other, basketball as a whole, there is a basketball culture war where it feels like the older generation feels like they are not properly given their flowers for all the things that the new generation is doing. So it's spun under the guise of skill, right? Guys can dribble and shoot and do all these different things. You can shoot from distance a lot further than previous eras. Absolutely. And you can do more things. You can do the James Harden step back and all that other type of stuff. Absolutely. I think what gets lost in this is two things. For one, from the old people's standpoint, I say older people, but one from the previous generation's standpoint, Ice, I think they look at the money that's being made and they're like, man, this is astronomical money. Like guys signing on a rookie deal, on a rookie extension, 5 years, $250 million, haven't even made an all-star team. We would never have dreamed of making that level of money. It's astronomical. So it's not really hating. It's just, man, that's a lot of money, which on its face, absolutely, a lot of money. Ain't really no hating there. It's just the simple fact of it, right? And not being able to have received all that you have put in to the league in that way.
I feel you. That's how that's how I feel being left out of the NIL right now. Like, dang, if I decided to go play college basketball 5 years later, I'd have had a bag. But I'm left with nothing. But I identify.
A big bag.
A big bag.
Yeah. So I think that's a natural feeling. I don't think that's necessarily hating the way that everybody says it. But the second point, and I think this one is the most important one, we equate, or the conversation that says, we equate skill to equaling better. And I don't know if skill means that you're a better basketball player. Like, there are players who have said, man, he's got a lot of skills. He can do a lot of things, but can't play worth a lick.
Right.
Like, can't execute time and score. Can't figure out how to integrate himself into a team environment in that way. Like, one guy that I think of, and it's not a shot on him. I don't want people to think this. But when I think of the way that Jason Tatum plays compared to maybe the way that Devin Booker played in the Olympic Games, right? Well, Book turned into catch and shoot guy. I know I don't have time to dribble and play pat, pat, pat with the ball 3 or 4 or 5 times, to get to my step back. I have to play off of these other guys and do that. Whereas Tatum, although he didn't get the minutes, we know Tatum's game is, I'm not the catch and shoot guy. I'm the guy that wants to play with it. I'm going to give you a spin move. I'm going to give you a step back and all those type of things. And I think that's where the argument comes, is where you see players today doing more with Ice. And I'll preface it and turn this to you because you play basketball at the highest level. The freedom that guys have today, the freedom that players of both sides of the spectrum have, from the coaches, from the officials, was not the freedom that was given in previous generations. Your coaches would yank you. Yeah. The referees would call you for a carry. So guys could do those things back then, but it wasn't encouraged. And it was downright, looked down upon back then. Whereas guys today, with the individual trainers and all the Instagram videos and all that type of stuff, it just looks better. But 2 points is 2 points.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like maybe one area when I saw this too, and he's like, talking about skills specifically, I actually thought about like technology, like the analytics of the game, like the way in which we watch film now and go back and break down different things. Or I can go on Synergy and see who's the best pick and roll pull up jump shooter in the league off of percentage in 2 seconds. Like, I think the skill and the game has evolved, and it's evolved because we know more, we can do more. Like you said, there's more freedom, rules have changed, right? And so I just feel like Ant, his statement, like, wasn't acknowledging, the evolution of the game. Obviously, there's more skill now, right? Obviously, everyone plays a different way because the game of basketball has literally changed. We're seeing now sometimes the most skillful player on the court is the 5 player rather than the point guard, right? Like, that's a huge drastic change from when we were talking about 20 years ago. So I completely agree with you. And I just think, I don't know, I just think you have to acknowledge generations and the generational gap and differences. And that's becoming the issue that you talked about and hinted at, is like the older generation feels away, the younger generation feels away. But everybody needs to acknowledge that, like, as time has happened, evolution has happened, the game has gotten to a new level. Therefore, obviously, skill is going to be different. Obviously, money is going to be different, and it should be. But I don't think it's fair to say, hey, skill didn't exist then. I still think there are some players in the NBA who rely on their size and athleticism more than their skill, right? And so it still goes vice versa.
Absolutely. And there's elements of the game that I will consider to be more efficient today than, of course, it's more efficient play today because, like you said, the influx of information, the embracing of analytics and saying, okay, well, why would you take a 19-footer when you can take a 22-footer?
Right.
The problem with that, to me, Ice, is, and this goes hand in hand with the freedom thing, there's more freedom than ever, but it feels like there's less spontaneity, less creativity. It seems like everything is, let me get to my step back. Let me get to this spot on the floor to get to where I need to get to. And I don't know about you, Ice. I never played the game when I played, whenever I played, like, period, like pickup or whatever. I never played with the thought of becoming like a basketball robot. I don't watch the game to see like a basketball robot. I watch the game to see, oh my God, what am I going to see next that I'm not expecting to see. And I think you turn players like that element of their brain off. You know what I mean? Because you're coaching, but you're not teaching. I think there's better coaching than ever. I don't know if there's greater teaching than ever. And I think that kind of goes back to what, Ant was talking about. And I'm going to go to Magic Johnson's comments because we got to touch on Irv.
Yes.
Irv is the nicest tweeter in the history of tweeting, right? Everything is great. Everything is wonderful, right? You never really hear Irv pop off and be mad. He might say, I am highly disappointed in something like that. Knowing good and hell well, Irv is really saying some other stuff under his breath, right? So Irv was talking with Stephen A. Smith at some convention or conference or something like that. And Stephen A. and Irv are tight. So he knew where he was walking Magic down. And he asked Magic about it. And Magic said, hey, basically in short, what has Ant ever won? I'm not responding to a guy that's never won a championship. Has he even won in high school? I know he ain't win in college. And for those who don't know, Magic won in high school. Magic won in college. Magic won 5 NBA championships. Magic got a gold medal. If anybody can talk, it's Irv. The 6'9" point guard, right? Who could play center. The 6'9" point guard who for his first few years in the league played shooting guard. Go look it up. Norm Nixon. Like all those things come into it. Isaiah Thomas had said some things. And of course, people view Isaiah through the lens of Michael and everything is being viewed as, oh, he's hating or whatever.
Yeah.
But his general point was there were great athletes back then. The way that we characterize great athletes back then, like Ice, the benefit of the hand check. Do you think people understand like how powerful the hand check is when you can put your hand on someone's hip or their waist and steer them not towards where you want them to go, but you can steer them away from what they're trying to do. The power of such a thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Nah, legitimately. Like, I don't know. It's hard sometimes for me. Like, been playing the game since I was 4, like been playing at a high level. So sometimes it's hard to take a step back and see what others don't see, right? Because when you're in it, you understand how important these things are. You understand the nuances. You understand the respect level that comes from, seeing someone that's won everything, being able to talk and those that can't. I think in this new generation, everybody thinks they have a voice. Everyone thinks that they can talk and say something. Everyone thinks that they're entitled to whatever. And I just love how the old generation continues to remind us, sit down and win something first before you open your mouth. Like you need to have a couple checks on your back before you come and talk to me. And say something that we should validate too, right? Like, because then also with all these voices are saying things. We talk about it and we talk about the same things. Now we're validating what they're saying. And we're validating what people are saying that haven't shown us the proof is in the pudding and know what they're saying. We're validating someone. I mean, hey, that's a young player, won his first gold medal, but kind of had the older players win a form. I don't know. I think it's too many voices right now speaking on things that they don't know. But I love that Magic just checked his credibility. Like, I don't respond to a guy's never won a championship. That's a fact.
That's a mic drop. And here's the thing. As someone with a microphone and a very nice camera setup and everything else, we got too many damn podcasts. We got Gilbert Arenas with one, and he's saying, well, like, Gilbert is entertaining. I don't know if Gilbert believes half the shit that he says as much as he is literally just saying things to get a rise out of people. Remember that thing in Watch the Throne, the Otis song? It gets the people going. Not Otis, not Otis. It's the song with the name that we can't say, but they are in Paris. Whoever they are, they're in Paris, right? And there's that little spot that says, what does that even mean? I don't know. It gets the people going. That's what I feel like most people are saying. I think Ant was speaking from a position of ignorant authenticity, right? He only knows what he knows. I don't expect a 22-year-old to have a full grasp on the league's history. I just don't. I don't go to him. I don't look at Anthony Edwards going into year 4 or 5 of his career and expect him to go far back beyond Kobe Bryant. Like, Anthony Edwards was born in 2001. Like, so even even the best of Kobe Bryant, you could argue
he missed.
Anthony Edwards did not see.
Yeah.
Let alone Michael Jordan, let alone all these other guys. Now, I do think it is incumbent upon him at this point to say, hey, maybe I should learn a little bit more about things I didn't see, about things that go beyond the basketball reference page or beyond what people are saying. But I think us criticizing a 23, 22-year-old for not knowing what he doesn't know, I think that's us just punching down, right? Some of these other dudes that's out here running their mouth and they know better. Oh, no, I'm coming for you. Because Ice, I ain't that old, and I go in the crates. You know, like I got records and I got records behind me. You know, I listen to music that came out before I was born, like all that type of stuff. I have interest in it so that therefore I can speak on it intelligently. I don't have a problem with Ant saying, hey, I didn't watch it back in the day, so I don't see it. But the thing is, there has to be somebody there to teach him and say, Ant, here were the practical rules of the game. Here were like the unwritten rules. Like, you know, the unwritten rules, guards don't come down here and grab rebounds away from big men. Y'all stay y'all asses out there and you get your outlet passes, because big men got paid for rebounding specifically back then. Now it's, oh, let the guard get it off the glass and start the fast break. Or you got your big man at 4s and 5s shooting from 20 feet out, so there's far more space to go get rebounds in the paint now, where the paint isn't as clogged back then. They might not have been, quote unquote, skilled, but guess what? They could knock you flat on your ass. And it took a real man to go down there back then. It took a real man to go down there and to go down there and take a hit, and to go to the line and to get back up and to make sure that he drove his ass right back down there the next chance he got, because you couldn't be no punk. Right. So there's unwritten rules of the game. There's ways that the game was played. There's games that the ways that the game was taught that I feel like need to be expressed to the younger generation, because if all they see is open lanes and I'm driving down the lane and I'm dunking on everybody, and I did that to Patrick Ewing back then, you might have caught Pat. But Pat might have also used 7 foot and 285 pounds to put you on your ass. And last I checked, Ice, 7 foot, 285. That's like Visa is everywhere you don't want to be.
I'm dead. I will say, though, on the other side, I just want young players to have an automatic respect. You know, you're playing for a league in which you should know the history, right? Like, this isn't a league in which you don't know the...
Yeah, you cringed when I said, when I tried to give Ant some grace. You cringed a little bit.
Because I'm just like, we're talking about the NBA. You know, we're talking about the greatest players to ever pick up a basketball, and we know who they are. It's been around for 75 years. So to me, it's like, as you're growing and you're a kid and you're studying, you're looking at games and you decide that you want to play basketball at a high level, you're doing the research in the league that you would like to play in to know. You have to come in with a respect factor. You have to come in with understanding. So yes, is it probably on somebody to maybe explain to him some of the nuances of history and what has happened? Yes. But it's also on him in his 4th or 5th season in the league to be knowledgeable and respect those that have come before you. Like, period, plain, simple. And not just be like, Michael Jordan, only one with skill. Like, I understand we're not taking that from a literal standpoint, but still, though, you have to have a respect. Where do you think you got the step back from? Where do you think the hesitation derived from, right? Like, you didn't just get that out of thin air. These things were built. People built on and added to the game. And then it is now the game that you play, that you enjoy so much. So I get it, but I also feel like win something and come with a respect level that's fair. I actually think that's very fair. But I don't know. I respect my elders. I respect the game. That's how I was raised.
Look, I think we are both saying some of the same things. And I can remember, you know, playing, like growing up, playing against older dudes. You get knocked on your ass and they tell you, don't come back down here. And at that point, you decide to become a jump shooter.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like at that point, and I think it was Trevon Edwards, my boy Trey, who said this on Twitter the other day, and it is like the story of my life at this point. He said, if you're past the age of 35, why are you driving to the basket? That's a great question. I'm going to play three-point line out here, baby. We're
not taking hits.
Nothing to... What I got to prove?
Can't take those hits.
Ice, what do we have to prove out here? We got nothing to prove at this stage of our lives.
Well, I'm under 35, so I still have something to prove. I still go in there willing to get hit. But
Ice, I'm going to let you know this now. All right? Let you know this right now. You have now entered the space of where your face is a moneymaker. catching an elbow to the grill, having to get a couple teeth replaced and all that other type of stuff. That's a difficult conversation to have with your bosses who's trying to pay you. Ice, what happened to your face? Well, see, what had happened was I was out there trying to prove that I was still 21 going down the lane, and I got knocked.
Trying to be a big guard. You're right. Let me stay on the three-point line. You're right.
What you got to prove?
This is true.
Take the layups when you can get them. But when the freeway is crowded, you take the scenic route. It's okay to take the service drive. It's all good. That's what we're doing. See, I gave Ant a little bit of empathy, right? Like let me say this. There are arguments that you can make against the quality of basketball because of the age of expansion. The league went from 24 teams to 30 teams between 1988 and 1995. And although there was an influx of talent that came in internationally, when you grow that large of a percentage, the quality of play will lessen to some degree because you're letting players in who aren't necessarily at the same level of the players who had to actually scrap to actually get on the floor. Like, I totally get that. So therefore, the game becomes a little uglier. And then when the rules changed, when David Stern changed the rules in 2004 to spread things out, the Pistons and Spurs, that was like the finals where the games were 74-69. Like, it wasn't a pretty game of basketball. Then Steve Nash, in the midst of that, starts winning 2 MVPs with 7 seconds or less. And you got the Sacramento Kings and all those other teams that are happening all in the middle of this seismic shift. Yes, there's going to be more of an emphasis on skill, especially with the Euros. Now you see European teams being a little tougher than the American teams now. So there is an argument in some ways, but you cannot summarily and wholly dismiss, like you said, Ice, the generations past, or just say, man, we just so much better than them. Because you're actually not that much better than them. If you're better than them at all. Because I ain't seen nobody better at the point guard position better than Magic. I ain't seen nobody play basketball better, period, than Michael Jordan. I ain't seen a more dominant big man than Shaquille O'Neal in his prime. And then we can go up and down the line and everything else. So the argument for evolution is there and skill. But basketball is more than a game of running and jumping. You got to actually think the game and play the game. And that's why I just wanted to give you young guys and gals just a little bit of history lesson. And I appreciate Ice for giving me some runway there. But we're going to pause for a minute. We're going to pay some bills, and we're going to come right back with some W talk, of course, here with Ice on this episode of The Good Word. Back here on The Good Word with Ice Young. For those who will miss it, because this will not be on the unscripted part of the podcast, John Gennaro had a question about Scottie Pippen. And now to WNBA talk. Ice, the Las Vegas Aces, 2-time champs, trying to win a third. It seems like they're sputtering a bit, right? Asia Wilson, to me, whether she's unanimous MVP or not unanimous MVP, she's the MVP. Last night, she had 42 in a loss to the 8-22 Dallas Wings. Tell me, is that a point of concern? Because I feel like top to bottom, roster-wise, Vegas is the best team in the league, but it feels like too much weight is on her right now, and that doesn't bode well for the postseason. Yeah.
So many thoughts. One, the Aces are trying to three-peat. And so you've beat every team in the league badly in the last 2 years. So every team is getting you your best shot, but they also have gotten better. Like you said they're the best team in the league by roster. And yes, like if we had to take any roster and say, we're going to play one-on-one, your player versus your player versus your player, they would crush the league for sure. But collectively as a unit right now, I actually don't think they're the best team in the league. Collectively as a unit right now, I think they are where they are in the standings. They're a 4th, 5th best team. What I'm seeing from them since the Olympic break, and that is where we have to start with this, because when you understand the WNBA season this season, they're playing more games. They went from 36 to 40. It's also a condensed season because of the Olympic break, right? The Aces had 4 Olympians just for the United States. They also had another 2 that played for 2 other countries, right? So that's half your roster, literally like 6 out of 11 players. did not get a break, did not get vacation. So they have looked tired since the Olympic break. They lost back-to-back games to Minnesota Lynx, who I think is a championship contender. I think if anyone has watched WNBA right now and you want to pick a team that you think can win, it's a smart pick, I would think about picking the Lynx. I think they have the best complete opportunity to win in terms of offense and defense. But where I'm seeing the concern for the Aces on the defensive side of the basketball and on A'ja Wilson almost being too dominant. So too dominant means she drops 42 points, right? Versus the Dallas Wings, one of the worst teams, one of the worst teams in the league by record. They're a team that's getting better because they've gotten some players back from injury. But she drops 42 points. There were 4 other players on the team that played and did not score in the game. 3 other players, right? There are starters. Kelsey Plum only had 8 points. That's an issue. That's an issue. Jackie Young had 17. Game before, Jackie Young wasn't in double figures. So to me, it's like A'ja is being A'ja. She's being the best player in the world by far every single time she steps on the court. A game winner the game before against Chicago, she drops 42. But you can't three-peat just because you have the best player in the world. You also need to have the best perimeter players. You also need to have terrific defense and be on one accord. And so I feel like for the Aces right now, it's them figuring out what is their identity. Their identity right now is we have the best player in the world. We throw the ball to her. She's going to score. And then on the defensive side of the ball, she's also going to block shots because she leads the league in blocks. And she's also second in rebounding. So she does everything. She's also third in steals. Right. She was also third in steals in the league. Like A'ja's ridiculous, to be quite honest with you. But for them, I think they're just relying too much on their best player. It would almost help them if they had to play a game without her, to make sure that everyone else could pull their weight, to make sure that everyone else understands, hey, Jackie Young, Chelsea Gray, Kelsey Plum, we still need to score in double figures consistently. They need to have a big 4. And right now, some games, they have a big 2.
Big 1.
A big 1.5. You know, and in this league in which you beat people 2 years in a row and they're getting better, they are, we have a few super teams in the league, I feel like now. There just needs to be more of an intention on the Aces to play well-rounded basketball. And I'm not saying that A'ja's being selfish at all. I think every 42 of those points, every point she needed, they needed. But I also think there's an intention on them just to get everyone else involved and make their big 4 the focus, not the big 1. I think that is where the concern is. And then defensively, they just have not looked like they have in the past 2 years. And again, I think that's just because of fatigue. I literally think it's because these players have not gotten the break that they should have. They've been playing consistent basketball since May. Went overseas, traveled, and so it's a condensed season. There are more games. But at the same time, if you want to three-peat and do something that hasn't been done in over 20 years in this league, you got to just get it done. But there's a concern for sure.
Yeah, I mean, look, it hasn't been a three-peat since the Houston Comets of Cynthia Cooper and Cheryl Swoops and Tina Thompson and that amazing team that started off the W's, the infancy of the W.
Yep.
It hasn't been done since then. And you brought up an interesting point about the Olympic break, about the fatigue, about more games. So the question just in general before we wrap this part of it is it a matter of A'ja taking a slight step back? Or is it a matter of other players, like you said, the Jackie Youngs, the Kelsey Plum saying, you know what, maybe I need to just be more assertive in this and not defer so much to the most dominant player in the league? Like, that seems like to be like a real delicate balance, because when you got the most dominant player and she's on a roll, you don't want to disrupt that rhythm, but subsequently you're also losing your rhythm and it's affecting you as a ball club.
Yeah. Being totally honest, when you lose to one of the worst teams in the league, you can't afford to have your best player take a step back at any point. So I don't think A'ja and I don't think Becky Hammon and I don't think the team would want her to even think about taking a step back. But I think what it is not so the other players pulling their weight. Kelsey Plum does average 18 points. Jackie Young does average 17 points. Chelsea Gray was hurt for the first half of the season. She's slowly coming back. But it's about their consistency. It's about consistently on the court. Can we count on A'ja being A'ja and getting 20 and 20 or 30 and 15? Can we count on Jackie Young getting 17, 8 and 6, which is like literally what she averages? Can we count on Kelsey Plum doing the same exact thing? Can we count on Chelsea Gray doing that? So to me, it's about consistency for the perimeter guards. I called their game versus Chicago this past weekend. I talked to Becky Hammond, and that is literally what she told me about the rest of this season. She said, I am challenging my guards, those three main guards, to make sure that they are the difference makers the rest of the season. Because everyone else knows that Asia can already be a difference maker. But now in a league that's getting better, it's no longer enough. And to be quite honest, it's never been enough to just have the best player. There are no teams that I can think of that have won a WNBA championship and just said, oh, they had the best player in the league and like they couldn't stop her. It's too good of a league. And so I just think the other three players that are guards need to be more consistent, especially because Asia dominates the paint so much. You need to be dominating the perimeter. And I just think that's kind of what they need is consistency.
It's going to be real fun to see them battle against, the Connecticuts and the New Yorks and to see if they can sort of conjure up this thing that, like you said, they won 2 straight championships with everybody else is sort of gearing for them and prepping for them and team building against them.
I have a question for you.
What's that?
What does it take to three-peat? Like, as we look at sports and when people win back to back to back, right? And like keep a sustained level of excellence, like what do you feel like are the top 2 or 3 things that it takes to repeat?
Luck.
Like
I know, no, seriously.
But seriously.
People hate the term luck because it seems to take away credit. Mm-hmm. But you need to be very, very fortunate. You need to have some real critical bounces to go in your direction. When I think of, just in terms of the NBA, when I think of the Lakers in 2002, right? They swept the Nets in the finals, but they got out of the Western Conference Finals by the skin of their chinny chin. They should have got their asses kicked by the Sacramento Kings in the West Finals. There's that infamous Game 6 where the Lakers took 21 free throws in the fourth quarter of a closeout game at the crib, right? There was the Game 4 in LA where the Lakers had just gotten waxed by 20 plus at the crib in Game 3, where Sacramento was up on them by like 21 and it was just looking like it was over and donezo for them. And the Lakers just miraculously came back and won that game off of Robert Ory's, Robert Ory shot that Vlade Divac called luck, and Robert Ory said, go read a paper. You know what I mean? Like that, those things happen. Like there's an inflection point, I think, in general for every champion that either you're going to go left or you're going to go right. And I could literally name you every team that's going back to back in the NBA. And I could name for you the inflection point that determined whether they were going to go win a three-peat or whether they were going to go quietly into the night, or maybe not so quietly into the night, but they were going to go into the night. So I think luck plays a huge part because more than anything, more than skill, more than everything else, Ice, it's a battle of stamina. Yeah. You're playing longer games than everybody else every year. You're you're physically tired. If you don't have the health, you can't ramp up to get to that extra gear that it costs you to win 1 championship, let alone 2, let alone 3. That's why that is really special. Thank you for that. Now, because I be seeing Twitter, right? Like I was at a wedding over the weekend, and because we couldn't take pictures, I couldn't use my phone to be out here doing, the people watching things. So I was just like on the Twitter. And Angel Reese, she tied Tina Charles for the most double-doubles in the season by a rookie 22. Right, she's going to obliterate that record, right? And then the things that you see on this very polarizing Twitterverse is you bring up her shooting percentage. You bring up the fact that she's grabbing her own rebounds and everything else. I don't want to get into that part. I want to ask you, do you think that in time, Angel's touch around the rim will increase? Because it almost seems unfair to expect a player to have that type of motor as they age. Like, not to say that you don't have the skill to rely on, but I'm saying as you get older, will that second jump come as quick? Do you think that she will be able to compensate or sort of, shall we say, join that adrenaline with just added touch around the rim to make her a more efficient player?
Yeah, I definitely think so. Even just talking to Angel this past weekend for the game, like she cares about being versatile. She cares about getting better. She's a rookie. Like it's so cool how the women's side game of basketball is growing, where we're not putting more pressure and expectations, right, on these young players because they've had such a following. And so I think some of these expectations for her are unrealistic. Like she's a post player in a post player dominant league, in the best league in the world. And so her shooting a low field goal percentage, understandable, right? I think the touch is going to improve. I think she's going to get more skills and get better. But I think for right now, what she's showing us is she's an elite rebounder. Rebecca Lobo tweeted this other day. Even if we took away, the offensive rebounds that she's gotten from her own missed shots, she would still lead the league in offensive rebounds, folks. Like, she's elite at it. I kind of have almost never seen someone have a game plan where it's like, let me just get it up and get free, and then I know I can get it back. And nobody else has done it. I think there's so much, scrutiny on her game and like how she's scoring or how she's getting these rebounds and like stat stuffing and things. If they could box her out and stop her from rebounding, they would. They can't, which is why she's leading the league in rebounding, which is why it's like, quite honestly, like I am tremendously impressed because I did not see this for Angel. I was concerned about Angel at the pro level. I didn't think that she had enough moves, and I wasn't sure if her physicality was going to stand and to look like a woman playing against other women.
Right.
But she has literally babied some grown women in this league on the boards. So I think she'll be quite fine, and I think she'll grow, and she has plenty of time to get better. And quite honestly, I've seen a little bit of growth from her just in the Olympic break. She's come out this second half of the season. She's knocked down mid-range shots off the face-up, shooting a confident lefty jump shot. She's also added a couple of moves to her game underneath the basket. But again, she's a rookie. She's growing. These things aren't going to look beautiful at first. I agree, though. Give her 2 years. In 2 years, Angel will be one of the best players in the league. Yeah, I actually think she has that ability. And I think she's that hungry.
That's the relentlessness, the want to be great, all of that type of stuff. And like you just said, the Olympic break, the fact that I don't think that we give these women enough credit for going directly from the college season, which ends in April, to starting in the W. It ain't like the NBA where they got the whole summer to rest their bodies, to get adjusted, and then coming to October and be ready. These girls are coming straight from college, getting drafted, and stepping onto the floor like a month and a half later. Like that's a lot to put on a 21-year-old, and to play a more physical game, and to play a more competitive league than you've ever played in your entire life is going to take an adjustment. Speaking of that, Caitlin Clark and the Fever, are they going to secure a playoff spot for the first time since 2016? Because it's looking like they're trending upward.
Yes, it's looking like they are. Right now, they're 7th in the standings. They're still slightly below 500 by 2 games. But in this league, that will get you a top 8 position and you will get to the playoffs. So the top 8 make the playoffs. They had back-to-back number 1 picks, right? Last year, you had Aaliyah Boston, played under Dawn Staley at South Carolina, had a fantastic career. But Aaliyah couldn't do it herself last year, and it was still a very young team around her. You add now Caitlin Clark, someone at the point guard position that helps make others better and facilitates like we've never seen anyone do in a rookie season. And then other young players have gotten better. And so I totally think that they will secure a playoff spot. And I think that they should. This is expected. You shouldn't get back-to-back number 1 picks and not be able to get yourself to the playoffs. To be quite honest, I don't care how young or old you are. If you're bringing the best player in that's available year after year, it should take about 2. And to be quite honest, it was a point guard and a post player. So it was perfect for them. They put really good pieces around them. Kelsey Mitchell is having a career year. She is a vet in the league, been playing 6 or 7 years. But she's finally in a comfortable position with a point guard that actively seeks to give her the basketball. And honestly, like the Fever just have so much behind them. It's the Caitlin Clark train. If we're being quite honest, that's behind them. And so people want them to win. People believe in them. And so I think they also have that boost behind them. Like, come on, we've got something to prove. It's
a confidence thing.
100%, man. Half of everything, I feel like I keep saying it's just confidence. You got to have the belief that you actually belong out there, that you actually can do it. And I think that this young team has that belief, and they're getting better. Every single game that I see them play, they're connecting more. They're talking more. The defense is better. It's somebody new stepping up. Lexi Hull is maybe 5'10", but one of the best perimeter defenders that we see in the league right now. That is nothing without her confidence level, thinking that she can guard some of these players, and then her work ethic to show. So I feel like they definitely will be in the playoffs. The question then becomes, can they give somebody a tough first round, right? Like first round is best out of 3. So you got to try to at least win 1. Winning 1 would be an accomplishment. And that's no disrespect. Like winning 1 would be an accomplishment. But we'll see. We'll see. I think also, you talk about luck. Luck sometimes is matchups, right? And who you're getting paired with. And I think there are a couple teams at the top of the standings that if they get matched up with, they could give them a run for their money.
So we have reached the uncomfortable part of this W discussion with Ice Young.
Okay.
So I know my voice just got
I'm
low,
ready.
but that wasn't funny intended effect. No. It's just on the rundown. It's on the rundown. So because John put this there, maybe you put it there. So I feel like it's not necessarily uncomfortable. I feel like we're leading into something. Maybe I'm leading the witness here. So we have reached a point in the season where we can start talking about awards and who are strong candidates and everything. Oh, Ice gave me the shimmy. She ready for this. All
Can
right,
I tell you why?
Cool.
I was asked to be a voter this year. So me sitting here talking, now I'm like, hold on. Like, I actually count. I matter. I matter in the W world. So yes, I'm excited.
This is that vote, trust me, that when I was notified that I would get my first vote, it was like, are y'all serious? y'all it was like y'all not just letting me in through the roof. Y'all opening the door for your boy? For your boy? I was 26. And I was like, they don't know who they just let in. Bets. The whole hood coming with me. No. But so the awards are coming up. We've slightly discussed MVP. I feel like I know where you're going with that, right?
Yeah, there's
Angel Wilson.
Yeah. I do think though, with the way this season is going for the Aces, because we talked about the most valuable player on a team. And that obviously implies that the team has to be a very good team, right? We're not picking the most valuable player on the worst team. I also will say that Napheesa Collier has made a very good argument for herself as of late with the Minnesota Lynx. They're third in the standings. Each team has about 9 to 11 games left. And I think if things don't take a good change for the Aces and they drop a couple more games, I definitely think that there are a couple of voters who will look to Napheesa Collier, who has the Minnesota Lynx as the top 3 team in the league. They're the best team in terms of defense, and their offense is high-powered. She's scored back-to-back 30-point games. I mean, like she's shooting 60% since the Olympic break. Like, period, 60%. Like, she's barely missing. And so I do feel like if she continues on this, there will be some voters who are like, hey, like, this team is going this way. This team is going this way. I could see it. But I still think that it is A'ja Wilson because of her numbers and what she's doing and just tracking in terms of she is 2 points above the average, the highest average that someone has averaged in this league. Yeah. Like shattering that. So I feel like because of the numbers, yes. But I feel like Fee is making a good argument for herself.
It sounds like you're trying to talk yourself out of A'ja Wilson and then comments, and then it's just going to come back and hit you and be like, nope, not.
Don't
overthink it. Don't overthink it. Don't be the one.
I want my audience to be informed. I want my audience to be informed, and I'm informing you that there is someone else that is playing at a championship MVP level, not at the same level, but it's at an MVP level.
Mm-hmm. Don't overthink it. Like, that's the one thing that if I could pass along some message to you. You asked me earlier about the age difference. You said, should I call you Unc or Big Bro? And I didn't realize if you were saying that as a joke. But as Big Bro here, I'm going to say, don't overthink it.
I was joking.
Yeah, but it hurt my poor little heart, bro. I swear, I was like, damn, am I that old? Like, I thought my hairline was holding.
Oh my God.
I took some pictures that made Vogue this weekend. I'm thinking that I'm chilling here. And she says, Unc. Like I'm 55 years old wearing some sandals with the holes in them or something like that. Cool. We going next. Rookie of the year. Is it 2 candidates? Is it just 2 candidates?
Yeah, it's 2 candidates. And anyone else, their team isn't doing well enough to get them considered. And that's just quite honestly the truth. Here's what I'm going to say. My pick right now would be Caitlin Clark. I think in what she's doing in terms of her scoring, her rebounding, and her assist numbers for the Fever and playing that point guard position and where her team is in the standings. I think you give her the nod right now. What I keep it honest and critical, my concern with Caitlin Clark is her turnover numbers. She leads the league in turnovers, but since the Olympic break, she has worked on those. And again, this is why we have breaks, so people can get better and develop their game and look back at film. On the other side, Angel Reese is having a terrific season, quite honest. And I think, from an expectations level, if we're being quite honest, Caitlin has the higher expectation. She has the higher level to meet, right? The higher proof to meet than Angel. I think Angel is just shocking us, to be quite honest.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Whereas Caitlin, it's like, no. We expected you to get a triple-double. We expected you to be the first rookie to do this numbers in this amount of time because you played the most amount of games at the beginning of the season, but we're just going to skip over that. And we expected these things from you. So I think in the race, we also have to factor in our expectations of what we have for these two players. But I think Caitlin is getting the nod right now.
Yeah, I think I saw a stat that says she has the most games of 15 points and 5 assists in any season, if any player in any season in WNBA history. And like you said, we still got a decent chunk of games left. So she's breaking records as a rookie with, like you said, the turnover stuff. But I feel like I've seen the growth in how she's reading the game from the first segment of the season to now. Now, most improved. Who you got for that?
Ooh, this is my favorite one because if you have not watched Kennedy Carter play basketball this season, that is your homework this week from me. Please go watch Kennedy Carter for Chicago Sky.
Everybody thought she was just the goon.
Hey.
Everybody literally thought that she was, that's the girl that knocked down Caitlin Clark because she can't stay in the league. And then you mess around and be like, oh, no, she getting buckets out here.
Bro. Well, my hot take, Kennedy Carter.
Oh, come on, bring it.
Kennedy Carter should be on the next Olympics team if it were not for politics. That's it. She will be that good. She is that good. I have not seen a player in the league that can stop her first step. I have not seen a player in the league that elevates higher on a mid-range pull-up. I have not seen someone that's dynamic on the basketball other than Khalid Copper. That's what I compare her to, is like Ka Copper, but a shorter version. But literally, they have
a little more compact,
and a little more compact, right? But Kennedy Carter also has started to grow her game a bit and shoot more threes, right? So there's an evolution to it, and I think that's where she's getting to. The day that, and she's working on this and growing on this, and you can see it, but she plays the game with so much passion. When she can learn to manage her emotions in the best way, she will be one of the best players in the league. She also plays two sides of the basketball. So the athleticism that we see offensively is that. But I think for her, my most improved goes to her because, one, Chicago right now, in the way that they're playing, they're doing everything through her. Since the Marina Mabry trade, where their point guard went to Connecticut Sun, she's had to step up and had more of the burden, had to carry the team, and has done that. Also, her assist numbers have gone up. But definitely one of my favorite players to watch in the league. And she is playing for a coach that believes in her. I think Teresa Weatherspoon has pulled out the most out of Kennedy Carter. And so where she may have had trouble with other teams and teammates and connecting, it's so beautiful to see a player who is thriving in a system that, you know, people believe and support them in. I have played in systems in which I wasn't supported. And my game tanked because nobody believed in my ability, right? Because of whatever. And so you can just see that if she continues to play for this coach and this team that believes in her, that thinks she's one of the best players in the league, she is going to rise to that. So my most improved right now is Kennedy Carter. I think she was in the running for Sixth Woman of the Year, but she played herself into a starting position. And so I think she's going to get that. And I think she's earned it.
Now, you just mentioned Coach Weatherspoon. So we're going to go Coach of the Year.
Yeah.
Is that your Coach of the Year?
It is not my Coach of the Year. It's not my Coach of the Year. Even though she gets all the antics and like talking to her, meeting her for the first time, she just, man, has such a presence about her. But my Coach of the Year would be Cheryl Reeve right now for the Minnesota Lynx. Again, I'm high on them because of the way in which they play. If you watch them play, guys, like there are just not many holes in their system at all. And they have some bench depth. They have some good players off the bench that can play. But I think the roster that she's put together, she acquired a really big free agent in Courtney Williams in the offseason, which was strategic. She got rid of a couple of guards that no longer fit her system. Her team has gelled well. They're high on the offensive and defensive side. And Cheryl Reeve has won 4 WNBA championships. And so it's a little dangerous for the rest of the league. Like, I don't know how much we factor that in. We always think how good a team is playing, right? And like, oh, this player is going off. But you also have one of the best coaches the league has ever seen with a team that's also going off. You know, so the X's and O's strategy towards the playoffs, and maybe if they get to a finals, the Cheryl Reeve is not the coach you want to be going against. But I think she's done a fantastic job this year.
There's something to be said about players who know that their coach is competent, and not just competent, but like they've been there before, and that we can carry out, we can execute because she has the proof of concept of having won. So that'll be something to watch. And at the, we're going to hit our last ad break, and this is going to be the portion of the program where I'm going to ask people to touch some grass. We'll be right back here on The Good Word on Yahoo Sports. Back here on The Good Word with Ice Young. Ice, of course, it's August. Training camp is over a month away. I'm not rushing. I'm not asking for anything to speed up. I am just beginning to enjoy my summer, right?
Aww.
Right? Cool. Going on an actual vacation. You know what I mean? Like doing some real stuff out in the world. I'm behaving like an adult with a holding hairline. All right, cool. Now, of course, because it's August, somebody has to churn up some stuff on the rumor mill. And the Ringer's Kevin O'Connor said this during a recent episode of the podcast, The Mismatch. He said, quote, I've reported on this podcast and on the Ringer just how the Lakers have their sights set for Luka. We'll see if that works out. Dallas just made a finals. Dallas is looking better than ever with their supporting cast. That may not work out, but the Lakers, by not trading their future first-round picks, clearly are still thinking long-term at this point. They're not going all in like you might expect many teams will do with LeBron James, end quote. Now, Luka being Luka Doncic. Luka Doncic, the guy who just carried the Dallas Mavericks to the NBA Finals. Not like there's a team... They're a team that is a bottom feeder where a star's looking to get out. But they're in the NBA culture says there's always a player inevitably looking to get out. And the Lakers are always the team saying, come welcome, come home to us, come to Staples Center, all this other type, or whatever the hell they're calling that place now. Right? I don't know if there's any truth to this at all. I do know that the Lakers are probably looking around at LeBron going on age 40 and Anthony Davis being 30 and being like not necessarily an old 30 Ice, but a 30 that's got a little bit of tread and some injury concerns. Should the Lakers be going all, the question I pose to you is, should the Lakers be going all in on whatever the future next star is? Or is it the old phrase, if you can't be with the one you love the one you're with?
I don't know. I mean, there's some balance here, right? Like, I think, I don't know. I'm a journalist, so like I think storylines all the time, right? And so the storyline is like we want LeBron James to go out on a high note. You know, like at the end of the day, I think that's what we want to see. And it may not be everybody.
Do we want to see that?
Do we not? See, because I feel, are we not rooting for him like that? I feel like we are.
I think, for me,
yes.
I think there is something poetic about watching the lion roar one last time, but it means nothing. Because it's the circle of life. It's, going further back. It's Muhammad Ali trying to conjure up that old strength and not being able to get it done versus, the Larry Holmes of the world and all those, and making way for the new heavyweights, making way for the new guys, the transition of power. Like, not the old guys killing the young guys and then walking off, and then you don't feel like the young guys are validated themselves. But watching the old guys, watching LeBron and Steph and KD still be reasonable versions of themselves, but it not meaning anything because these young dudes are taking it from them. It's not being handed. It's being taken. I think there's something beautiful about that.
Yeah.
That's just me. Maybe I'm tripping.
Interesting.
It's just me.
Yeah. I hear you. It's so funny how earlier in our conversation, you were for the young guys. And I was like, no. They need to calm down and have a respect level. And here again, you're for the young guys. I don't know. Maybe I'm an old head then, but I just.
No, I'm not calling you auntie. I'm not calling you.
You can't call me auntie.
I'm not calling you auntie or TT or none of that other stuff.
Ice.
That ain't no term of respect.
That is what my little Amaya, my little niece does call me. TT Ice.
See?
It's okay.
See
that here.
Ice, I got no problem. I don't have a problem with the old dudes. I wouldn't mind seeing LeBron and Steph on the same team. I think watching the Olympics, that'd be cool. I wouldn't mind seeing KD and Ant playing together. The Olympics always seem to bring out like, oh man, we should play together.
Right.
Like it always brings out something in that. But I don't know. I don't know if the Lakers are trying to prep for the Luka Doncic per se. Like who knows? If Luka goes and leaves, I don't think he would go necessarily play in LA. He doesn't seem like the type that likes the spotlight. And if he's going to go play with somebody, when he go play with his buddy Nikola Jokic, I'm just saying,
I just think it's a slow news cycle. as a slow news cycle. We needed to talk about something. It's easy to talk about the Lakers because, again, storylines. But I do understand, though. I don't know. I'm sticking with my original statement that as James is old, as AD is getting old, I understand the sense of urgency to hey, make it happen. I just don't think it's Luka. I just don't think that's what it is.
There's considering I was at a wedding over the weekend, and there's this phrase on this terribly, poorly written wedding song. It is the worst wedding song, Ice, in the history of wedding songs. You're 4 years old, so you probably haven't, heard it as much. Yeah, I just did that.
Tell me the song.
But the lyrics go on the hook. We ain't getting no younger. Might as well do this, right? If you write that on a note, put that on somebody's door or something like that, I guarantee you will not get a good response. If you put that in a text message, you will not get a good response. If you go to Rob Pelinka as a player and say, hey, dog, we ain't getting no younger. We might as well do this. I don't think that's going to help either.
Facts.
But either way, like I said the most critical thing about this, it is August. It's a slow news cycle. We got to have something to talk about. It's just obligatory. Don't take the bait. Don't get any extra thoughts. Dallas people don't come hitting us up acting like we trying to send Luka off to LA and all that, because it's not. I didn't mind Dallas at the NBA Finals. It's Dallas, so it was 90 degrees outside, 90 degrees plus a thunderstorm, and then back to 90 degrees. But it's worse places to be in June. It's much better places to be in June, but it's worse places to be in June, right? So don't take the bait. Go touch some grass. The NFL is going to be starting up in a couple of weeks. The NBA is just, we going to get right back to training camp and storylines and all that other type of stuff. Don't give too much to this. But one thing we can give a lot to is the great Ice Young. Ice, I really appreciate you.
You too, fam.
That's all we got for you today. Thanks again to Ice for riding shotgun, and thanks to producer John and the entire team who worked so hard behind the scenes to make this show great. Jake and Dan will be back with another episode of No Cap Room next Wednesday, and I'll be back in 2 weeks because I need a break from y'all. Until then, everybody be safe.